So how often do you record commercials?
Commercials, I mean, this past year I've recorded the most commercials that I have in my entire career. I don't know what it is about this year. It's just been a commercial year, but I would say I probably have done like 5 or 6 this year, but then like only like 8 total or so. So it's like really been mostly this year. Before I wasn't doing as many commercials. So
Are they like local commercials or are they more like nationwide?
Local. So, and then one of the commercials they did is technically not local. Like it was filmed by a local company, but technically the company, Bones Coffee, is out of Florida. So I'm not sure, because this company actually works with a lot of companies worldwide. So it is kind of more worldwide, but it's not what we would say a national commercial, because I think they define that as something that's like aired on television.
Okay, so there's like a bigger reach, though, like probably social media or.
Yeah, so this one was mostly like social media advertising and stuff, and this company does a lot of social media advertising, which has done well for them. But yeah, for nationwide, typically I would be getting residuals, so I'd be screwed over if they were nationwide. So yeah, that's mainly the difference. But yeah, so mostly local companies, but some of them have been statewide, just not national.
That's cool.
One day I'll do national, and then I can get all those residuals.
Especially if it's during like the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, I'm like, can I just land a commercial that goes to the Super Bowl, please? So I can be rich.
That'd be great. I don't know if the Super Bowl is going to be any different next year due to COVID. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how they kind of go about that and what the commercials look like. Yeah,
well, hopefully lots of these Utah commercials will land the Super Bowl, please.
All right. Well, let's have you introduce yourself so we could put a voice to the face.
Oh, yes. I have a name. Hi, I'm Emily Ashby. A lot of people know me in Utah, and I know a lot of you too, so that's great. But yeah, I'm Emily Ashby.
The social butterfly.
Oh wait, I should do how do you do the
Napoleon Dynamite thing?
Yes, the social butterfly.
Yeah, no, I remember the first time that we worked together was on a short film. I think it was Rick's short film. And you were just there interacting with everybody on the set and just happy to be there. And I thought, wow, she's very charismatic and energetic.
Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you can feel my charisma. I always drink a lot of caffeine too, so some of that energy is fake, I have to admit. But
there's nothing wrong with caffeine. I mean,
we have to.
Like a pot of coffee keeps the anxiety at bay or anger. I don't know. What would you say?
Or the hanger, maybe too. A little bit of all those things.
If I can't have my food, give me my coffee.
I remember when I met you too, and you were just like such a fun-loving, nice person too, and so chill. You're just the chill, cool guy on set.
Chill. Well, I'm glad you thought it was chill, because that's probably being a dick to the Landon or somebody. Like being like, we gotta get going, man.
Well, you weren't a dick to me, so that's
a plus. Okay, so and just a little bit more background how we know each other. I mean, we did meet on that set, but you starred in my short film and you were nominated for quite a few awards in different festivals. And fuck yeah, Emily.
Well, I was really honored when you reached out to me about starring in your film. And I remember reading your script when you first sent it over to me. And I was like, this is a good script. I really like this. This is really fun. And so I was really excited to audition. In fact, throughout this COVID pandemic, I was actually going through like my old audition videos, and I found one of my first auditions for the film. And I was like, it was so weird watching my audition for the film so long ago. I was like, what? This is crazy.
So do you watch your auditions and then kind of compare how you did with like the final product and kind of see like where they kind of drew the inspiration?
Yeah, I was analyzing that and how it kind of changed a little bit. I mean, also it depended because, I worked with Casey on set too, and, who I was working with and, what they were giving me was different. And so the scene definitely was different than the audition, right? Based on, my reader, but it was just interesting to see. It's like, I had this idea in mind when I first had auditioned for it. And then it's like we were working together and we made the scene happen and it turned out great. So it was fun to see that.
Yeah, it's always fun because like even just from like writing something or just working on set after having read a script, and you're like, well, how is this going to turn out? You never know how it's going to turn out until like it's put together.
Yeah,
it's always
exactly.
Like a nerve-wracking thing, but watching you and Casey's chemistry like in the editing process, I just fell in love, and I think you guys were great in it, and I thank you immensely.
Well, we thought you were really great. I'm still crossing my fingers that you decide to go for a full-length feature on this. So I'm like, one day we'll have to make me, a little bit different because I'm a redhead now, but.
Now, is that your natural color or is that dyed?
It is dyed. My natural color actually is a light, kind of an auburny brown. So it's not that different than my natural. It's just bumped up a little bit, but it's actually way more similar to my natural hair color. Blonde obviously wasn't my natural, but yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought blonde was your natural.
Really? Oh, you're like, what do you mean by obviously?
Yeah, I'm like, because when I first saw that you had like your auburn hair, I was like, does she dye it or bleach it? Like, how does that work going from blonde to a darker color? But that makes sense.
Yeah, so the blonde, the blonde was fun and I really liked being blonde, but I just wanted to change it up for a more dramatic peel. That's something that is a little bit more natural to me. I'm glad that I didn't know that it looked natural because I kept thinking it doesn't look natural. I was like, I'm not going to get cast for any era pieces if I don't change my hair. Meanwhile, Chaz would have cast me in an era piece, no problem. It looks natural.
I mean, to be fair, I'm a guy, so like,
yeah.
There are guys who notice that. There are guys who don't. I'm unfortunately one of the guys that's like, it fits either way.
Well, good. Now I know I can go back to blonde and still look somewhat natural.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would have to change Marley's character a little bit to a redhead version, but
it works.
Yeah. So have you considered more going for a feature on Night of Adventure or?
No, that's done. That project's said and done. But I do have other features that I want to make. So hopefully that goes forward. I finished 2 drafts so far during quarantine. I'm working on one more script. Hopefully to have that done before the end of the year so that they can be like, oh, I wrote 3 scripts during COVID. How cool is that, right? But the first draft, so it's not like they're finished. But either way, it's still moving forward past the short film and doing stuff that's greater,
Well, that's great. You've accomplished a lot through quarantine. Let's look at the positives here.
Yeah, I have. I've learned how to cook. I've learned how to I've made some mean zucchini and banana bread.
Oh, wow. That is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, I'm a huge slut for those, so.
Such a banana bread whore. Oh.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God, if somebody has banana bread, like, at weddings. Whoops. I thought I turned it on silent. At weddings when they have like banana bread muffins or at cafes or whatever, it's always my go-to. And yeah, like you said, I'm a whore for it. So
Well, there's nothing wrong with a little banana bread, right?
no. But how have you been doing during this year?
You know what's crazy is I always thought, I was like, when we first got into this whole pandemic thing, I'm like, well, no more filming, no more acting. I was all sad about it, thinking, we weren't going to be able to make things happen. And surprisingly, I've been more busy booking film this entire year than I have past years. So I'm like, okay, well, that's great. But what's cool about it is just the fact that the Utah film industry is still doing so good, despite the circumstances, and making things work and sticking to protocol still as well, and being safe, but yet still making things happen, versus some of these other states aren't able to do that. And so I've been really grateful at just being able to, be still involved with film stuff during this time. And it allows me to focus a lot more. I feel like, just with this whole pandemic, when it first happened, I decided, what am I going to work on? I have a little bit more time right now. What do I want to work on as far as my craft goes? How can I improve? That type of thing. So that way I'm staying proactive and not just sitting around, waiting for things to happen. Like you writing, a bunch of scripts during this time. Like, take the time to get stuff done and still be proactive. And I think that's really helped me, is I've just been, still go, despite the circumstances. And now we're still filming things in Utah, and it's great. So
I haven't been on set since COVID hit, basically. So I don't know exactly what it's like on set. Like, was it weird going into it, like when the protocols first came out, for the safety? Like, was it kind of like a new change that people were kind of adjusting to, or was it pretty seamless in the transition?
It's still a pretty big change in a lot of ways, just because, the limitations on how many people on set, they're being way more careful, right? We're not going to see mass groups of extras. They have to kind of limit and make sure that people are still able to social distance and stuff as much as possible, but also actors can't be masked in front of the camera. And so I think it was a little bit different too, because you know me, I'm a social butterfly too. I have to get used to social distancing. I'm like, wait, what? I can't just hug people? Like, I remember I ran into a friend when it first happened, and I was just like, hey, I was like, oh, I forgot I'm not supposed to hug you. It was really weird for me, because I feel like it's unlike me to be social distancing and wearing masks, but, we need to do it. We need to be safe. And it's just a little bit different because everybody's wearing masks that, aren't actors on the set, and, staying as distant as possible. But other than that, it doesn't really seem that different, right? It's just people in masks, and we're being extra clean. It actually makes me happy as a germaphobe too, as well, that everything is so clean. I'm like, it's about time. This makes me so happy. So,
yeah, I see a lot of like behind the scenes stuff of people on set, and it's like you said, it does seem like people are distanced, and I think it's cool. But I wonder how actors go about it, because like, especially if you have like an intimate scene, like how do you pull that off? Like, and I know there's techniques of like, shooting on a tighter lens and making it seem closer, but like, I don't know. I think it's a new challenge, and hopefully it passes, because that's going to be fucking irritating, like, going forward.
Yeah, because we do need to get back to the full normal, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we need to do the big films too, with large groups of people. But yeah, I haven't done any, kissing scenes, so that's a new hurdle, I'm sure. I don't know how they handle that. But at the same time, though, they're doing the COVID tests. So that is a part of it. The COVID test 2 days prior to the film dates. And so at that point, no COVID. So, and then quarantined. So
So
Yeah.
what kind of tests do they have on there? I haven't been tested yet for COVID, thankfully. I kind of want to go through this whole quarantine not getting tested, be like, yo, I didn't have to, but what?
Well, I don't know if you want me to scare you or not, but they stick a large thing, my Bob. It's like this long, and they're like, hey, just relax. Let me just stick this into your brain and scrape around a little bit. And then I'm going to do the other side, so that way you know how bad it hurts, but you already, and so you're just like, but relax. So yeah, I mean, it's really uncomfortable test, but we got to do it. We got to make sure that we don't have COVID, so I can tough it. But it's not a fun test at all.
So it's the swab, because I know they have like saliva and stuff, but I don't know. I don't know which ones offer different results. So I was just like, oh, well, I wonder how filming is. But well, that's cool.
If you can avoid it and not have to take it, I'd recommend it. It's not fun.
That's my goal. I'm super proud in saying I have yet to get tested. But as the longer it goes on, I think the slimmer of a chance that goes. So we'll see by the end.
Yeah, and I understand the need for it. You jump onto a big set and they have to protect everybody, and there's only one way. You can't just be like, I don't have symptoms, right? So that's the only way that they can really know. So
no, absolutely. And I think I wonder why other workplaces aren't doing that either. They're like relying on people to be like, hey, I'm symptomatic, but turns out I actually had COVID, and then they have to shut it down. I'm just like, why not just make everybody get tested before going in? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I actually heard, but I don't know if this has been like officially released. But California is like working on a 2-hour test. So that might be a possibility here soon, is that they'll have a 2-hour COVID test so that you can do yourself too. So we'll see.
Ooh
la la, quick results.
Nothing like a quick result in 2020 when it feels like it's been like 5 years in the span of 9 months. So
yes, it really has. It's kind of weird too, because it's like, what was life like before COVID? It almost seems so long ago.
Well, I wonder too, like, what would we be doing right now if we didn't have to deal with a pandemic? Like, would we be going out with friends to bars more frequently, or would I be going to a movie right this minute? Like, I don't know. It's sad. But.
Well, the theaters are still open though, and that's the thing. A lot of big releases haven't happened because they're not seeing the best as far as the money that they're making, but they're still making money releasing the films in theaters. It's just so limited, right? You have to have the spacing, so they can't fill a theater and make as much money as they could before. But I mean, at least the theaters are still in business and still, doing things, and they're really clean. If you see the videos, they clean everything. It's beautiful. So on a positive note, when you go to the theater, you're like, I feel safe in here.
Yeah, I've been in one movie. It was Tenet, and I told myself that if more people came in than like what was already there, I had to be okay with leaving. Thankfully, nobody came in except for like an old couple, and they sat on the other side. I'm like, this is cool. I'm okay. And then I cried during the movie and during the trailers because it felt so good being back in the theaters.
You're like, I just am so happy to be here.
No, seriously. And like seeing the teaser for Dune, like they were teasing when the actual trailer were dropping. Oh, it's just like, this is so great. Like, this feels so good. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, Dune's pushed back until next year. And I'm like, fuck.
Like, I have to wait so long. I saw the trailer for Dune. I was like, this really is so beautifully shot. It looks so magical. Like, what is this? I don't even know.
Yes to all that. And I might have analyzed. It was like that trailer. And before that was like Batman. It was like a week before that. And back to back watching those. They're shot by the same director of photography, Greg Fraser. So it was quite the treat of being like, each shot just looks so sexy. Like, it's beautiful.
That is the sexiest shot I've ever seen.
I love it. But okay, Emily, how long have you been acting?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to say, has it been 4 years? want to say it was like 2000. What date is it? Where are we at? We're in 2020. I think about 4 years now in film. So yeah.
And like, how did you get your start into it?
Well, initially, what made me inspired to be an actress was I was reading a lot of books. I was going through all these book series. I love fantasy, and I also really love sci-fi. So I'm like reading through this book series, and I was like, what character would I be if there was a film on this? And then I started analyzing this. I'm like, wait a minute, why don't I try film? And I had done theater back in high school, junior high. I really did like theater. But it was never my like calling to be on stage and be the main actress in theater. But film was different. I've always loved movies and I was always interested in it, but I had never even tried it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try some acting. And so I got into acting classes with Rob Diamond. Just jumped straight into that and just started acting. I was like, well, if I like this, I'm going to, push forward. If I don't like it, no biggie. And I loved it. I remember my first scene, and Derek was in Night of Adventure too as well, playing a cop, and he's so great in it. But Derek was in my very first scene I ever did. And one of my friends, Dakota, and we were all in this elevator, and it was the end of times. And we're all freaking out because our family was dead. And it was like a really intense, dramatic scene for your first scene. I remember doing this first scene and, prepping with everybody. And, I'm still trying to figure out acting and all this. And they kept saying, just be in that moment, be in that moment. So I was like, okay, I don't know if I can cry. And it's funny now looking back because I was always like, I don't know if I can cry. Because I used to be the type of person, I'm so happy, right? I'm like, I don't like to cry in front of people. Why cry? Let's just be happy, But acting's different. And so I just really got into that moment. And we had like 4 of us crammed in this little space doing this scene, really just getting into this moment. And it was just like all this natural emotion started happening. And I was like, I love this. Like, I really love this. Even though my normal self, I love being happy, I really love just feeling all these emotions. And so that really just kind of made me really excited about acting and getting to work with others. And, I love people and making new friends and, interacting with people. So.
Is there an actor or actress that kind of like inspired you to move forward with it or kind of base your own technique off of?
2 actually. Charlize Theron, or however you say her name, Theron, I think it actually is, but I always said Theron. But Charlize, what I love so much about Charlize is her commitment to different types of characters. She doesn't just commit to being this beautiful, powerful woman, which she is, as you can see, but you see all the characters that she takes on, like Monster. She gains some weight for Monster, and they, put all these prosthetics and make her look less beautiful, but still beautiful because she's always beautiful. But you just see that commitment to being so versatile and taking on each of these different characters to portray them. And I love that about her, and so for me, it's like, I don't mind playing certain types of roles, but I also see myself with my career branching into these, very different characters that are almost don't even look like me, right? That I get to portray. And also just, I love that she does action films. I love action films. I've actually been working on learning some different fight techniques and stuff like that. And so I'm going to continue to be developing those skills because I definitely want to be able to do my own, maybe not all my stunts, but some of them. And, but so Charlize definitely is one of my big inspirations, but also Emily Blunt. And she's very similar in that sense. where she's taken on some very different characters. And like Girl on the Train, which I still have yet to see, but I know a little bit about that character and how different it was for her. So, and I love Emily Blunt. Maybe it's just because my name's Emily. I don't know, but I just see her as very real and very versatile in her acting. So,
I think those are great actresses. Especially, those are great because so with Charlize, have you seen Atomic Blonde?
Yes, that's one of my favorites. I love James McAvoy. He's actually my favorite actor. So,
well, there you go. That's a badass movie though, with her stunt work and like Mad Max, even with stunt work,
yes,
and both just being this badass woman, but two very different roles, essentially,
yes.
And Emily Blunt, my favorite movie of hers is Sicario, because she plays like this woman who wants to do by the book, because she's very procedural like that, and she's thrown into a world where that's definitely not the case. And so seeing her struggle with that, it's good. I like Emily Blunt too. Those are great choices.
Thank you. I haven't seen Sicario, but I wanted to see that one. I know. I've seen so much of Emily Blunt. In fact, speaking of, I was so disappointed that, why can't I think? A Quiet Place 2 was halted, and I was so excited to see that in theaters. I'm like, no!
Yeah, that's how it was with Halloween, the new one too. Then they're like, oh, we're pushing this back a year. And I'm like, God, here's a sexy teaser, and I'm like, ah! But no, those are great actresses. And what about actors then, if that's the case? Like, because you said James McAvoy, right?
Yeah, James McAvoy. I've always liked James McAvoy. I don't know. There's something about him. He's got so much swagger. You just see him and there's just this confidence and you can't help but like him. It's like a likable confidence that he betrays, probably just in who he is. But then I saw him in Split, and that's when I decided, I was like, okay, he's my favorite actor. Because it was just phenomenal. The different characters he took on, like 20, I want to say it was like 25 or so different personalities. And it was the subtle things that I noticed where it's like his face would change. He didn't have to say a word, that you could tell, you're like, oh no, he just switched. He's this other character, this other personality. And you're like, well, what? It's phenomenal to see how well he made that a reality with 25 different personalities or so that he portrays in one film. It was just crazy. So I was like, why didn't he get an Oscar for this? It was so great. But have you seen Split?
Yeah, I did. And I also saw, what's it, Glass, the third movie?
Yes.
But the thing with Split is going into it, I knew nothing about it, right? But throughout it, I'm like, this has like similar themes like Unbreakable, where it's, you could be the hero or stuff like this. And then at the very end, with the music cue, which is from Unbreakable, then I kind of, I'm like, oh my God, this is a sequel. Like, this is a sequel in disguise. What the hell? And then, you see Bruce Willis, and then they go into Glass, which was definitely not the greatest entry, but I like Split. And it has Anya Taylor-Joy, who I think is a phenomenal actress.
Oh yeah, she is phenomenal. She's really taken the stage with a lot of different films, especially since I think Split, which I know she's done other films before that, but I can definitely see her taking on a lot more, including this new Netflix series, which I still need to watch. It's like
Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, which looks really good. So I need to watch more of her. But yeah, she's phenomenal.
Yeah, no, it's a very good movie, or not movie, show, limited series, as Netflix puts it. But I definitely recommend that. It's a good show. But so go in, like, along with acting and like just pursuing any sort of art form, as creatives, if you will, there is always a sense of like self-doubt that I feel like we have to handle.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about self-doubt, and like how low have you been either from that or just from like a bad experience? And how'd you kind of get out of that?
Yeah, it's difficult, I feel, especially in an industry like this where you experience a lot of rejection, way more rejection than you ever get roles. And so it's like this constant thing where you're like, all right, well, I've only booked this many roles out of this many. But I feel that philosophy is actually disabling. So for me, I view it like an opportunity for every single audition I submit. It's just another opportunity for me to showcase my talents and my skills. But for me, when I feel low, I feel that that's because I didn't prepare myself as much as I needed to. And granted, there's going to be circumstances that it's like you just get something, you don't have as much time to prepare. But I like to analyze rather than necessarily view it as doubt. I like to analyze how could I be better prepared and what skills could I focus on rather than feel like I'm lacking something. Obviously, I'm lacking something if I feel that way, but how can I improve upon that particular thing so that way next time I don't feel like I'm, not giving my best. And so, I mean, we all experience, as positive of a person I am, sometimes I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm able to do this. And that's for me actually what I really love. And it's kind of weird, but when it comes to some of these roles where I'm like, okay, I need to, learn different skill sets. A role I've been working on is actually a military role. And so I've had to learn some, I know basic gun skills, but I had to learn a lot more than basic gun. I don't think that's the technical term, but basic gun skills. But I've had to learn a lot. And when I feel underprepared, it's because I don't know enough and I need to challenge myself more, do more research, learn those skill sets. But yeah, I mean, we all experience the times where we're like, am I in the right career? Is this really what's right for me? But I feel like at the end of the day, you have to think, and what I like to think about is, do I get joy out of doing this? Yes. Am I passionate about this? Do I enjoy this? Then I'm going to work harder to be better. If not, then maybe this isn't the right career for me. But if it really is something that I'm passionate about and I want to work towards, then I'm going to keep working hard to get better at it. So.
Yeah, I think I think just like the self-doubt in itself, like you kind of touched on it, is like when you think that way, like you want to focus on what you could do better or whatever. And like it reminds me, I actually got called out recently by my sister because I told her I turned down a project of sorts, and she's like, well, why? And I'm like, I don't know, it's just not vibing, whatever. And she's like, no, it's because you've never done it before. Like, you're afraid. And I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, yeah, you are. I'm like, shut up. You don't know me, sister. Yeah, but thinking on it though, it's like definitely there. Like, that's how I handle it, to avoid that whole conflict of self-doubt, is I don't do stuff. So when I turn stuff down, it's not necessarily just because I'm not vibing with it, but it's because like I don't want to deal with that if I fail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's always scary because I feel like I've bitten off more than I can chew sometimes too, where I'm like, well, what have I done? What have I just taken on? Do you really think you could do this? And I think those are the most challenging moments that sometimes it is scary. It is scary because, at the end of the day, we all want to succeed. We all want to do our best. We all want people to love us and love our performance and love, whatever art we create. But also, I think when we challenge ourselves and push ourselves to learn more and get better at something, it really does. That's where we get the progress too. And so, yeah, I mean, I would encourage you. I mean, you're very talented, Chaz. I've seen your skills, and there's some things that are different, obviously, on the film side, you know, as a director, and depending on the type of project and stuff. Yeah, there are challenging things, and I always look at directors with utter admiration because I'm like, wow, I can't really do what you do. I can't. I did a music video once, and I don't really want to direct anytime again soon because it is hard. You guys do some of the hardest stuff behind camera, making the call on how to shoot it and make it look beautiful at the end of the day. But
that music video turned out really well.
Well, thank you. It was hard though. And I think that it was only because I had all of you amazing people, I have to say, on set helping me with it, that it really turned out so great. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I wanted to direct something. I wanted to have the challenge and experience with it. But what I realized out of all of it was, and it made me respect directors a lot more because of it, because it is so challenging. And maybe I'll direct again one day. But for me, I'm like really focused on acting, right? And I know how big of a challenge it is now with directing. But I mean, I think when I do decide to, at least I have all you guys and we'll still make it turn out wonderful. But yeah, well, thank you. I really liked the end product. It was just very difficult and challenging. And that's an example of me stepping into, I'm not exactly sure if I can do this, but I'm going to do this. And I think, you know, with that circumstance, my willingness to say, I don't know exactly how to do this, but I know people who do. And I have a vision, and I'm going to work with other creatives and artists on this. And I'm going to say when I don't know. And I think that really is when we learn the most, and we can be, you know, humble in, this is my current experience, but I want to learn more and get better. And I think that's when we have the most progress, I would say, because yeah, don't be afraid to say you don't know something. It's okay to not know. Like, just like when I started acting, I didn't know. I didn't know anything. I just jumped into it. But look at me now. So yeah, I think that, I don't know where I was going with this. Sometimes my ADD, but yeah, I think that admitting that you don't know something can be the best. Leave it to Emily. What are we talking about again?
Well, no, I think you definitely touched on that. Is it's okay to not know, and it's a very ego thing to kind of like let go. Like you have to like really kind of embrace that fact that like, oh, to expect that to know everything is just purely nonsense. And so to let go of that notion that you have to know everything, and like you said, like we learn as we go from this process. And I think that's what's really fascinating about just being artists in general, is that like we learn so much about ourselves along the process, not just about the craft, but like ourselves, you know, like my sister called me out being like, oh, you don't like this because you don't want to try new stuff. I'm like, no, that's not it. Even though it's definitely it, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like open, like little windows kind of opening up, and I don't know, it's a fun journey, I think. So, but I think, I mean, you touched on it still with your directing experience, is that now that you know what it's like on the other side, when a director asks you to do something different or whatever, like I think it kind of adds more to like an understanding of like what they might be looking for, you know, having been in their shoes before. So vice versa, I should probably act so that way I know how to not direct people.
Well, maybe we should do a reverse and I'll direct again, and then this time you.
I think it'd be a fun exercise. I really do think that'd be a fun exercise. So, and if the end product's good enough, sure, like whatever.
I mean, there are phenomenal directors that have never acted at all. But I must say, I think it does help in some ways. Is for directors to understand, and vice versa, like you're saying, to put each other in each other's shoes. But it also helps with open communication in that way.
Yeah.
As a director, you understand how the actor, prepares and understands a character. Now you can speak to them even better on the emotional level, to get what you want too. So I think, ultimately it comes down to that communication. And speaking of, I thought, working with you on Night of Adventure, you were really great about that. Just kind of understanding, as I came to you with questions about, the script and, the feelings of these characters and stuff, you were really great at, you had a vision, you understood the story that you wanted to tell, and being able to, collaborate and kind of work with each other on that to make it come to life. I thought you were great at that. So.
Well, I think it's great, especially because I did like a lot of the script to screen videos, to compare like what was on paper to like what we actually got, and just seeing like some of the differences that were not in the script, but like that you and Casey added with like a lot of context and depth to the characters. Like I loved it, and so the collaboration is such a cool fucking thing in this field. Like it's like the best way that I describe it is like it's a pyramid, like how we all start at the base. But by the end, we're all at the very top. Like all of our work connects, and it's just so freaking cool.
Yeah, and I must say that for me is my favorite part of the film industry. Is really just, there's so many skilled people on every set.
Yeah,
they're all doing their thing to make this magic come to life, right? And just. It's cool to see too, from that script, seeing that initial, I was thinking back when I first read through the entire script to now, what do we have? And it's just really cool to see that come to life with just all that collaboration. So.
Collaboration's key.
Yes, teamwork.
Hell yeah. Well, it got, without you and Casey, like, it wouldn't be like what it is, and like you got nominated for Best Actress at the Utah Film Awards. Like, how fucking badass is that? Especially because like it wasn't like Best Actress in a short film; it was like Best Actress, just period. Like, that's so fucking cool, Emily.
Well, thank you. You know what though? When Casey, because Casey and I won that award at that Los Angeles festival too, I loved that they had a team. Best duo. I was like, oh, I love that. It's such a cool award to receive. Is at the end of the day, it's not just about your performance in that character. It's about creating a reality and making the story come to life, and that involves multiple characters interacting and telling the story. And it's all about, some of the best advice I ever got on acting is it's about the other person, not about you. Yeah, you feel a certain way, but it's about the other person. And when you look at the core of scenes and stuff, you have another character, it's about them. And, it's so key to be intuitive and interacting with that other person. And so I really was happy about that, the duo award. It was just awesome. And you won for the film that year too as well. And so kudos to you. Obviously it's because you're so talented and you told a good story. And I think that ultimately is what comes down to a good film, right? A good story that the audience enjoys, and you did great, Chaz. So.
Oh, shucks. That was a good experience too, just because I hate public speaking. I guess this is kind of public speaking, but with because we after the screening, we had that Q&A after, and just being up there, and I think looking at people's faces and seeing how many people were actually there is like, oh god, this is stage fright. And so I was really awkward up there, and then when we had to make the speech for the win, I was like, oh god. I don't know, I was winging it. It was a good life lesson, to say the least.
You did good though. I actually, even though I feel that I'm a very social person and I could speak to just any stranger on the street, put me in front of a microphone and I actually really don't like it. But I was so honored to even be invited to come do announcements by Warren. I was so pleased. I was like, yes, of course. But I actually hate being on stage in a microphone, like with a microphone. I actually hate it because I'm like, oh, everybody's staring at me. But it's so different with film. Film's more intimate. You have people around doing their thing, but it's still intimate. Now you put me on stage in front of a bunch of people staring at me. I'm like, words? What words was I supposed to say?
Yeah, well, like the worst thing is that the lights are so bright on your face. Like, how do I make this sound personal? Because, like, to be personal, I mean, you kind of have to have, like, make eye contact, and like be very direct with the people. But if you're so blind up there, you don't know who you're looking at all because they're all just like little shadows. And then I'm like, where was I even sitting? Like, I'm like, was I that far back? Like, so, it was fun. I think with better practice, I mean, I'll get there, but it was a good experience regardless.
I mean, you'll get lots of practice. I imagine you're going to win a lot of awards. So might as well get used to it.
We'll see. We'll make like not an awful film. We'll make like a really fucked up film. And people are like, oh my God, I can't believe he won something because like the script's so fucked up,
But it's going to go to the Oscars. It will. If it's not like stand out, they're like, what is this? Oscars. This is such a statement.
He's just trying to be edgy. So where do you hope to see yourself in like the next 5 years with acting?
With acting, I hope to see myself taking on roles that are even more versatile. And, I've seen myself go that direction. Like I said, with some of the roles, like I have a military role I'm working on, a helicopter pilot. So I get to learn lots of stuff with that role, and it's a different version of me. And I really like that. It's actually way more vulgar. So people get to see like this side, because I consider myself pretty ladylike, minus the burps on set. But yeah, so, I see myself taking on these roles where a little more bad I should say. Not that I don't appreciate every single role I get, because I do. So I'll continue to do, all these characters and do any films that I feel good about. So if you write any films, I'm always happy to work with you because you're wonderful. But I see myself going kind of more the, bad A superhero route, like maybe Marvel. I was actually hoping to get an audition for She-Hulk, and they already cast that. And I'm like, why? Because now I'm a redhead. So it actually would have been a really good fit for me. But they already cast that. So we'll see. But I would like to do a superhero role. I've actually co-written a series that I hope to get off the ground in the next 5 years. So fingers crossed, it's SciFi Fantasy, but I definitely hope to get that rolling. And yeah, just continue to take on different types of characters. Again, I want to stay busy as an actress and, keep working on lots of projects, but I really want to be able to showcase so many different sides of Emily that people almost think, is Emily Ashby schizophrenic? Because I'm not sure which person is her. It's like, wait a minute here.
You're like, I want to bring James McAvoy's character to life.
That's it. I just want to be James McAvoy. I should have just said that. That would have shortened it. I want to become James McAvoy.
But you know what? I have no doubt that you will, number one, get this series off the ground. I think that you're very determined and you will find a way to make it work. And a lot of people are going to love working with you on that.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm excited to see where that goes. I'm curious about, you said SciFi Fantasy. I'm like,
yes.
Soccer.
So big budget. So Fingers crossed for Netflix. And I really do. I do actually see that this will take off eventually. But like you said, I'm very ambitious when it comes to certain things. And this is one I'm very passionate about. And it has underlying, basically, it talks about never giving up. And that's kind of what I'm passionate about. And so that's why I'm like, I really want to get this going, not just because I love sci-fi fantasy and I love, new worlds, but because I'm very passionate about not quitting. Like you said, on the ambitious thing is, a lot of successful filmmakers, actors, they never gave up. They got rejected hundreds upon hundreds of times. They tried to get their projects rolling hundreds and hundreds of different directions and everybody said no, but one person said yes. And so that's just kind of, my philosophy always is the right person is going to believe in you and things will just happen for you. So like you believed in me, and look at Night of Adventure. Look where it took off.
No, it was worth it. But I think, passion is the driving force, I think that it gets easily overlooked. And, I think it fuels differently depending on different people. Like certain things kind of ignite it more than other things. But as long as like these artists and, people as a whole can kind of hone in on like what it makes it really pop, then just like hone in on that and fucking drill it, no, that sounds wrong. Just like, just go for it, Shia LaBeouf it.
Shia LaBeouf. Oh, I love Shia LaBeouf. I would love to have Shia LaBeouf on my series. I need to get that. I need to make that happen.
Did you see Peanut Butter Falcon?
I love Peanut Butter Falcon. It just like warms your freaking heart. You're just like, I don't even know what to say about this. It's so freaking cute.
It's so cute. I saw that I think 3 times. I love it.
Yeah, it's just such a good story, and the actor, the main lead actor did such an incredible performance too, as well with Shia, and it just, I love those kind of stories too, where it just, obviously it has a great message, but yeah, Shia and that is just, Shia is always adorable. I always like Shia.
Even Stevens. So Disney Plus has Even Stevens, and rewatching those, it's just like, man, 2000s were kind of cringe.
It is kind of true.
Like early 2000s. Well, and during Halloween, I was watching all the Disney Halloween flicks on Disney Plus, like Don't Look Under the Bed and what Wrapped or whatever, the Mummy one, Phantom of the Megaplex, but they're really cringe. So.
You're like, and I enjoyed this as a child.
even Halloween Town. So like Halloween Town is no doubt a classic, and it puts you in the right mood for Halloween. But like, there's some stuff where you're just like, thought this was so cool. But okay. Well, how do you hope that you can inspire others?
I hope to inspire others that, for one, I came in to film not too long ago with, just a dream to become a film actress and with no background or understanding of film. But because I worked hard towards my goals and what I wanted, I achieved my highest goals. And I hope to inspire other people. It doesn't matter where you came from. It doesn't matter your background in something. If you want to do something, do it and put your 100% heart into it, and you will achieve that, whatever that is. And, always work hard. Don't become stagnant in something, thinking, well, if I just sit here, hopefully something will happen. No, just keep working hard towards something, and find new passions and develop new skills. And I think that this is also part of what keeps us alive, right? Is finding things to be so excited about. You know, you want to be excited about your job. And for me, nothing's more exciting than film, you know, and everything's different every time. I'm like, this is so exciting, right? Every new project, every new character, whatever it may be, you know, every new cast and crew that you work with. I think just find things to be excited about and enjoy them, enjoy life. So, yeah.
So on that note, then, do you find it more? I don't know. Hold on. Let me rephrase. So like on that note, like finding what you love and going after it, do you think that you will ever kind of get away from acting, but still kind of go more towards like film acting, but go towards like theater acting? Like, has that been a thought of yours ever?
That's a good question. I actually have more recently thought about theater because a lot of the best actors actually studied theater, like James McAvoy. So, in fact, he does plays. He wrote and directed a play and starred in it not too long ago. And so, yeah, a lot of the best actors have studied theater. So I definitely see myself learning theater at some point and doing some performances and stuff to help me even better as a film actor. So yes, I do see myself going that direction. I don't see myself ever quitting acting. The nice thing about acting is that there's no age limit. So it's kind of like you could be old in the old character, or, you know, it's kind of nice. You know, you could be, you know, you could act forever. But I do see myself, you know, branching out to doing some theater and then also working on business ideas. And so I actually have studied fashion design and have always been passionate with fashion design. So I actually see myself also designing clothes and having my own label and designs on the red carpet one day and all sorts of things. So yeah, I kind of want to do a lot of things. You know, acting's still my main passion, but I kind of just want to do as many things as I can within my life. You know, I'm like, what else do I want to learn this year? You know, like more recently, I decided I'm gonna start learning some bow staff fighting skills and just, you know, things that are fun and exciting. So yeah.
I didn't know that you studied what fashion design.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, so I always was in the arts. And so my initial degree was fine arts. I also painted. So I used to do a lot of paintings. But then I decided it's for me, painting is actually something more I enjoy. It's more relaxing for me. It's kind of an emotional release. I didn't want to make a career out of that because then it's like suddenly now you have to be painting for money. And so I didn't want to do that. But fashion design is something that I always wanted to do because, you know, I love fashion. I love clothes, and I wanted to be able to, and I also see the fashion industry as art, you know, creating these different designs. And so I always wanted to design my own dresses and have my own dresses that I'm wearing at the red carpet events and stuff. So. And then I actually want to do a line of tuxes too as well. And so I got you covered for your red carpet events.
Tuxedos are very uncomfortable.
Tuxedo shirts as well. High fashion tuxedo shirts.
Well, I remember, so the first year at the Utah Film Festival was like my first time being nominated for the Night of Adventure script, right? And I thought it was like a huge festival. I mean, it is a huge festival, but I thought it was like tuxedo, like fancy dress up, kind of a huge festival. You know what I mean? And so I rented a tux. And then after seeing how everybody dressed, I'm like, oh, so the following year, which is last year, I dressed definitely more casual, casual business, and it wasn't as like uncomfortable. But yeah, tuxedos.
You're like, yeah, this is normal. Then me, I'm like, oh, you guys didn't decide to dress up?
Yeah.
I did.
Well, I did over the summer of last year. I did buy a suit because I had friends getting married left and right. But then COVID hit, so I haven't have a reason to wear a suit. I don't mind dressing up for weddings, by the way. I think weddings are fun. So anybody who trashes weddings, shut up.
Do they hate free food and free drink? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I used to give people a lot of crap for it right after high school, just because, Utah's notorious for marrying young. I'm like, really? Like, you guys are getting married that young, whatever. And some of those people are actually like on their second or third spouse. And they're only, I'm turning 26 this week. So it's like, they're only 26. You know what I mean? Like, wild. But as far as attending weddings now, being, more in my mid 20s or often to be later 20s, I guess, is 26 is late 20s. I consider that more adulthood because I'm off insurance by Thanksgiving. So I think they're kind of fun. And it's kind of cool to see people kind of embracing their love for each other. And like you said, free food, free drinks, fun music.
Yeah. Well, it's like pure happiness. I mean, what a happy place it is at a wedding. Do you not enjoy happiness?
No, exactly. And I always like the reception's probably my favorite part just because there's a lot of fun music and there's like, depending on like what wedding you go to, there's some fun drinks or there's just some nice food. And it's also people you meet there. Especially if you go stag like I do because I just go stag, but I meet these people at like random tables and they're like, oh yeah, I know the bride or the groom this way. Like, how do you know them? And it just kind of opens conversation and they, it's a nice way to spread your work even and for people to get to know you. But
like, by the way, I wrote a film. Are you by chance a funder or a producer or?
Yeah, I don't know.
Money by chance? I don't mean to come off too strong, but I have a great film idea for you.
So
Got $1 million.
How rich did you say you were? Oh, you're an engineer, so you make a lot of money, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you could be a great funder for this.
No, I don't do that. I actually, for a while, when that venture first was released, I kind of got on dating websites to kind of only promote that, and it was probably the worst tactic ever. Because nobody would match with you, and all it is just like your picture of your movie and like where people could find it. And I'm like, this is so awful. But yeah, don't. That's not a way to promote your movie at all.
Maybe you should have offered a movie date, and then they had to come, or it was at their house, and then they had to buy Night of Adventure because that's the movie you wanted, and then you got more sales.
Yeah, that's just a don't do that. And I even did it for the podcast for a bit too, as a joke, and it just made me kind of not want to get on dating websites ever again, just because I thought it was kind of dumb.
Like maybe not for movie promotions.
Like I just imagine like the reactions of the woman being like, "What a fucking loser." I think it's funny. I personally think it's funny. So, but
I do think that's funny. I didn't know that you did that. So, way to be so committed to promoting.
I don't think a lot of people knew that. Like, I mean, I don't have a lot of followers on Twitter, right? But like dating profiles, people are always swiping across their profiles. So like, there's a chance people more likely check that out than on your Twitter or your Facebook. And plus, my Facebook, I think people have unfollowed me, which I don't blame them because of politics stuff, and it's just a messy year all around. But I mean, I think it's an option to go that way, but I wouldn't recommend it. So, if there are any inspiring
throw that out there on Utah Film, like, hey, if you guys are really struggling with your promotions, you can always put it on Tinder.
Oh man. Anyway, so that was a thing that happened. I don't think a lot of people know that, so it's kind of fun to admit. But
the truth comes out.
The truth comes out. You got to do what you got to do when you're an independent filmmaker. So
exactly.
I didn't stoop so low to put it on Craigslist, so that's a plus, right?
You're like, buy this.
What's one piece of advice that has stuck to you throughout the years, and how do you apply it? And I'm going to take this a step further because I'm always wondering, like, who told you this piece of advice, or did you kind of come across it your own way?
Piece of advice that's always stuck with me. That's a good question. I'm like trying to think of the best piece of advice. I mean, I've had a lot. I've had a lot of great influencers throughout the years. And so I'm trying to think of what's really been, besides what I've already told you, as far as like my driving force. I think, so I've worked with Rob a lot, Rob Diamond, done a lot of acting classes with him. And when I first started acting, I was really thinking about what did I want to do as an actress? Like some of the questions that you've asked me. And, thinking back with what he told me was basically always stay true to yourself. And that was something that I thought was really important because in this industry, it's easy, you may have roles come out there to you and maybe that isn't really what you want. And I don't want to say anything that, degrades what anybody decides to do per se, but maybe that is something that you're not going to feel good about at the end of the day. And if that's the case, it's not worth it to take on those kind of roles because ultimately you need to feel good about what you do. And, whatever you do, not necessarily is it going to uplift you because sometimes, some of these characters you may take on, you may have to experience some very traumatic circumstances. So that's not necessarily going to literally make you feel good, but feel good about the stories that you're telling and what kind of films you're a part of too as well. And feel like that's still true to you. And don't lose yourself in some of these roles that you take. And that was one of the best pieces of advice that I haven't forgotten through my career is sometimes I've had to make tough decisions and I've had to say, no, I'm not going to do this. But I ultimately feel good about those decisions that I've made. And I feel like I'm going exactly towards the goal that I want as an actress and for my acting career. And so, that would be my advice to anybody else too as well is stay true to you and don't lose yourself and become a different person because of it. Always be you. And that's something I've always been like, okay, I'll tell my friends, keep me in check. I think I'm a pretty nice person, but keep me in check. Because if I ever become kind of an a-hole, you need to tell me. I don't see myself becoming that, but you never know, right? And I always want to always be me. Be the Emily Ashby I am.
That's like your relationship with your friends is kind of like what I have with my sister. She just tells it point blank, like, stop being an ass. But I think too, taking that criticism, like the people being real with you, isn't necessarily being critical of you. It's just getting yourself checked. Essentially, is like what's that word, that phrase? Better check yourself before you wreck yourself, kind of a thing.
Yeah, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. It's essentially that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. So it's kind of like being constructively it's giving you constructive feedback on your personality. Because
yes, exactly.
It is very easy to lose because being in film that I've learned so far is that it's a very ego fed industry. People live off that. It's not. There's nothing wrong with it. But checking yourself or getting yourself checked with your ego and just keeping yourself in line with that and recognizing what is ego and what is not, like, and how to be humble and be human, because it's okay to be flawed.
Yes.
I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. So, and I like Rob's advice he gave you, is be true to yourself, because I kind of feel like I'm not an actor, but I think each project is a new opportunity to learn something new about yourself, and I think that's applicable to across the boards with new stuff. And if you feel like you're not going to be able to learn something critical about yourself, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a no as an answer.
Yeah, and I'm not, saying that there's necessarily bad projects out there, because I don't view it that way. But sometimes it's like everybody has their goals and what makes them feel good at the end of the day. And even some of these roles that are phenomenal films, like The Joker, for instance, Joaquin had to make that difficult decision that he was going to have to take on some very, very difficult things. He's going to have to go through a lot of trauma. And you got to be able to take that on if you're going to take on that character. And you got to be able to pull yourself out after it, right? And everybody knows himself the most. And I think challenging is so important and critical, but then you also have to say, okay, is this best for me? And, is this something that's going to, I'd be down to be a female Joker. I would take that on, but I don't think that'll ever happen. Female version of the Joker. Sorry, Ashby.
Do you want to hear a hot take?
Yes.
I think the Joker was mediocre at best.
Well, Joaquin's performance. I'm talking strictly on that. Now,
was he acting or was he being himself?
That I don't know.
Watching any interviews with him, like, he's kind of like that, and so I'm always like, I joke, hence Joker, right? That I'm like, is it really acting or is it him being himself? But no, I think he did a great performance. I just think Adam Driver should have won for A Marriage Story.
I do love Adam Driver. That's another actor. I kind of briefly touched on James McAvoy, but I really, really enjoy Adam Driver. And he was one of those ones who just came out of the woodworks. And you're like, who's this Kylo guy? Oh, okay. Who is Kylo? And then you're like, who is Adam Driver? And you're all curious about it. And then I saw him in all these other films. One of them was an indie film. It was like While We Were Young, and and he was funny in it. And you get to see a little bit of his personality, and just he was fun and he was funny in it. And then you see him in Marriage Story, and he's just phenomenal. You just have to love Adam Driver, and you touch base on some humility aspects too, and keeping yourself in check. And he's one that I see. He seems so humble, and just down to earth, and just such a solid actor. So
yeah, and
we love Adam.
I don't know if you watch the there's videos on YouTube, like the Actors Round Table, where it's just a bunch of actors sitting around and just chit chatting. But he's on there with I think Robert De Niro is one of the actors with him. I might be mistaken. I don't think it. Either way, Adam Driver has a great round table, because he's just, like you said, he's just humble and just doesn't say a whole lot. But when he does speak, it's always from the heart. Like, it's cool.
Oh, yeah,
Adam. Okay, well, Emily, where can people find you?
That's a great question. I'm in quarantine, so nobody can find me. But I will not release my address.
No, I'm just asking for a credit card and social. Let's be real.
Yeah, it's just typical questions. I get that all the time. People call me. I'm like, all right, okay. I don't know why you want to know, but okay.
Will this be my Marriott hotel redeem thing that you always call me about? Yeah, okay. Well, here's my credit card. Here's my full social. And by the way, here's my birth certificate.
You need a photo ID too as well? Do you want me to throw that in? Oh.
Where can people find your work, though?
My work. Well, I actually realized I'm on Apple TV now. So if you search for me, I was like, this is kind of cool. Kind of excited me. Because I was more recently a part of a film called They Live Inside Us, another really phenomenal film. I really, really enjoyed Michael Bailiff, is phenomenal, and that entire cast and crew. So if you search for some of these films, like They Live Inside Us or Night of Adventure is another one. If you have Apple TV, you'll actually just find it's Emily Ashby, and I'll have all my movies, including a baseball one, Romance in the Outfield. So it'll have those ones listed. Some of the other ones are online. But of course, Night of Adventure, They Live Inside Us, and Romance in the Outfield is all rentable. So you can find those on any of the platforms, Amazon, I think Hulu. I get confused. They all start to sound the same. I'm like, Voodoo, Mudo, something like that. So yeah, you can find all of those. Night Adventure we also have, I think, on YouTube, don't we?
Yep, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
It reached over 1,000 views, which I know a lot of people are like, that's only 1,000. To me, that's a lot.
No, that's a lot. That's 1,000 people.
But I was also
your movie.
Well, and I was also doing stats. So like on Facebook, I was comparing it because we released that on Facebook as well as Premiere, but I was adding up the stats from that to YouTube to Amazon. And it has almost like, I think about 10,000 views overall, like with all that combined. So I'm like, oh my God, 10,000 people have seen this. Like, I don't know how they like measure that, but that's cool, I guess. Like,
that is cool. That's great.
Yeah. Well, it's because I don't really pay attention to like how much stuff or how much traction stuff is getting, right. And so I kind of forgot about how I could look up stats for it. It's like one night I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I was kind of intoxicated. And I was just like, well, I want to look up all this stuff just to see like who's not watching it. And then it actually had a lot more than I expected. So I thought it was really cool. That is
really cool.
You made it. Like you helped make it what it is.
No, but you made it. You're the one who really made it.
I
just was in front of the camera doing things, and I was like, whatever. And then you actually made it. You can also search me on IMDb. I think they have IMDb TV or something like that now, but I don't know anything about that.
I don't know anything about
it. My phone's ringing. I was like, what is happening over here? But yeah, so if you search for Emily Ashby, I'm the only one on IMDb, and so yeah.
Well, hell yeah. And where can people follow you? Anywhere?
Instagram. I do have Twitter, but I never use Twitter. I don't really know how to tweet. I'm like, I don't know what this tweeting thing is. Do you say a couple things and hashtag a bunch of stuff? But yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Emily Ann with an E, Ashby. Also on Facebook, I have a Facebook page, Emily Ashby Official, and I'm on Facebook. But you can also find me on TikTok. If you like to do, but that's all my professional stuff. Okay, so don't expect the professional stuff, but I do have some fun stuff on TikTok. What's the other platform I'm thinking of? Where else am I? Instagram, Facebook page. I have a website. You can also find my website. It's just www.emilyannashby.com. So
nice. Before I let you go, do you have any fun plans for Thanksgiving? Safe, fun plans, I should say.
Safe, fun plans, just some time with family. Very, very low key, though. I kind of have to stay remotely quarantined for this next project I have next week. And so I have to do a COVID test bright and early on Friday, and then I have to quarantine. So not anything too crazy. So really, really low key. Just with the parents type thing, but yeah.
Nice.
So nothing crazy. What about you?
No, just keeping it low key as possible. So
I gotta stay safe, but eat lots of food.
I'm looking for turkey, pumpkin pie. I'm looking to pig out, honestly. Like I will find any excuse to pig out because 2020 has been a shit show, and I think we all deserve a great feast.
Yes, we deserve to eat double this year for sure. You know what I found out though? Cranberries actually help with digestion, so you can eat more. I'm always afraid of cranberries because they're like high in sugar, but I heard if you have a little bit of cranberries with each of your meals, it actually helps aid your digestion of meat, so you don't feel quite as bloated. You can eat more.
I didn't know that. I'm not a huge fan of cranberries themselves. I don't mind cranberry juice, but like usually there has to be vodka with it. So
You're like, if there's no vodka, there's no cranberry. Yeah, I'm not big on cranberries either, but now that I found that out, I want to try it. So let's see what happens.
Well, Emily, thank you for coming on. Be sure to check out all of her stuff. All the links will be in the show notes. And you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram. And you can follow not Facebook page, I was going to say, the podcast page. There we go. On Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And yeah. Emily.
I need to go and follow the page. Where? I need to do this. I was like, wait, there's a page for the podcast. I'll do that. But yes. Thank you so much for having me, Chaz. I am so honored to do anything with you because you're so phenomenal. And so, yeah, I appreciate you.
Well, I'm making my way down the Night Adventure crew. I had Casey on as the first episode. Then I had Landon on. Now I have you on. And I did have Deuce on, and he did do stand, and outside Chris, who did this camera work. So I'm just working my way down, You
need to do Derek and everybody.
I know. I keep trying to get Lorenzo on. Hopefully that works out in the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Derek's. Yeah. I need to reach out there, but I'm excited. I don't know. I appreciate you all, and I think you're all fucking amazing. Just so.
I think you're effing amazing too. So there's that. It would be fun if we all did one too. Eventually, all of us on.
Yeah.
Then versus now, or whatever you call it. We're all grown up, right? We're like child actors, but it's only been 2 years.
It feels like forever because we shot that in 2018. And it came out in 2019. So, I mean, it has been 2 years, almost 3 years. 2.5. We'll say 2.5, but.
Yeah, it actually, it's been a bit.
It has been a bit. Older. Yeah. So, okay. Well, Emily, thank you so much for coming on, and I will talk to you soon.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Chaz.